to Scoundrels Inc., another Star Wars podcast. And folks, it's finally here. Ahsoka, it premiered on Disney Plus. But better yet, we have the re-debut of our good friend Kevin Smets.
Hi.
Welcome back, Kevin.
Thank you. Let's not talk about me. This guy has COVID. I thought you weren't even going to be here today. This guy right here has COVID. Put a mask on. You're going to get yourself sick.
I'm recovering, okay? Jesus.
You said you were positive this morning.
Yeah, but
he was positive he had COVID. Yes.
Okay, but listen. I've had it for a week.
You're the reason why it spreads, bro.
I'm starting to feel better.
And good.
The last two
bazaars or malls today?
No, the last 2 days I've had thick red lines, and this morning it was a tiny, thin, faint red line. So
is that a thing?
It does. Like when you don't have, when you only have it like a little bit, like that second line on the test. It shows.
I didn't know science was so nuanced. I didn't really.
Yeah, I mean the second line is the second line. A positive test is a positive test. But I'm hoping tomorrow there will be no second line, and then that will mean
that I can enthusiasm themed
return to work
COVID test where he's like.
Well, as you can tell, folks, we're here with Brandon and Kevin to talk the first two episodes of the Ahsoka premiere. What a premiere that was. But before we get into all of that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, and leave us a comment on how much you appreciate Kevin returning to the show. And then also, if you want to follow us on our socials, the app formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. Brandon always championing Threads.
Thread it up, guys. Still not on.
And then also our podcast feed. Please go and follow our podcast feed over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts from. And look, we also been doing this giveaway, or we've been doing this raffle of sorts, if you will, for the past 5 weeks now. If you left comments on our videos and whatnot, it would enter you into the contest, the giveaway, and we're going to reveal the winner of that giveaway at the end of the show. Yeah, I'm going to do that. We're going to make you... Well, you can just fast forward to the end, really, I guess. But anyways, we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Well, yeah, you can't do that. No, but... and then, as we always start the episodes recently, we talk about the SAG strike, the WGA strike, to show our solidarity with those striking out there, and usually give a little bit of an update on what's going on out there. And one thing that happened recently with the WGA Negotiation is they put out an update, and it's not great. The AMPTP said they wanted to talk to the WGA. They went to the bargaining table, and then the AMPTP gave them all this stuff. They didn't really counteroffer anything, and it was really just a really disingenuous conversation, or not even conversation, just an interaction, really. And then the AMPTP leaked out all their proposals or their points like 20 minutes later after that meeting, just to try and kind of get some public support, which did not happen. But if you want to read about that and all the little more specifics about that meeting, if you will, you can click the link in our description, as well as other links to the funds that the SAG and WGA have out there to help those that are striking right now. So with that said, how about we get into discussing Ahsoka, the first two episodes, which is Master and Apprentice and Toil and Trouble. But I want to get everyone's first initial thoughts. So Brandon, first two episodes, what did you think? Because you haven't really watched a whole lot of Rebels, so I'm really interested in how you watched these first two episodes.
Yeah, I liked them quite a bit. Let's see. I'm like, I don't want just overall impressions. I don't want to get into anything that's on our rug sheet too deeply. But overall, really fun. Enjoyed the characters. Chopper was awesome. The score was awesome. And I was really, there was like a lot of like interesting extended universe ideas thrown in the mix that I'm excited to like see how they're going to play out, when they're just like so openly being like, oh yeah, there's another galaxy and there's an ancient
Right.
people that are from that galaxy that have been to this galaxy. You're like, oh, we have not seen that in canon before, have we? Like, let's slow down a second here, Morgan. All right. So really interested to see where that goes. And yeah, it was fun.
Kevin, first impressions.
Hated it. So boring.
You did, yeah.
No, I'm
Filler.
curious, Brandon, if you're gonna want to watch Rebels after all this. So I watched it with my wife too, and we were able to watch like a recap, but like, and then I had a big picture of the Rebels crew, and I was like, all right, this guy was this guy. This guy died epically when he was blind and saved the crew. He had a kid with her. Like, I tried to give her the gist of it, right? And I just think that I think without watching some of Rebels, like, I think her level of care for those characters, it takes a little more. But I will say, overall, I enjoyed the show. I just hope that it doesn't lean too much on always having to rely on your love from the characters from the previous seasons, right, or different shows. And what I mean is, right now it's kind of cool. Like for Dasha, my wife, Ezra feels like a mystery, right? It's kind of like in the Force Awakens when they're like, Luke Skywalker, I thought he was a myth. Like right now, like, oh, where Thrawn is, goosebumps. Think about it. Where Thrawn is, could that mean that Ezra's there too? And I think that that's a really cool dynamic that she gets to experience that I don't. Because, like, for me, I know who Ezra is. I know their whole dynamic, which makes me appreciate more things. Like when Hera comes to Sabine's defense a lot more, you know that they are that found family. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, that kind of group. Totally became that family. So I think, Brandon, if you really like this show, I mean, we've been telling you to do this for years now. You're gonna love Rebels, you know what I mean? So, but it's interesting. I think now, don't try to catch up now. It would be interesting to follow your journey on this show, as without knowing about the Rebels. But yeah, all in all, I liked it. I thought the music was well done. Pacing for me, I mentioned this on the Jedi Way, which is on Roka's channel. I talked about this. The pacing was a little, at first to me, felt a little off, like a little slow. And then I realized, but there were some transitions that felt exactly like the prequels, like George Lucas. And I realized, I'm like, wow, Filoni is like going all in on some of his Lucasisms. And even the director, her name escapes me. Seth Green, the second episode, which felt a little tighter, but still like, dude, just the homage and stuff. But like in that first episode, the homage to like Darth Maul, when the thing comes and it's tracking just like
the probe,
like, so I think it was deliberate. So I think that some people are feeling like it's a little slow, but in the end, I think that it won me over. Like at first I was like, I even looked to my wife and I was like, it's a little slow, huh? She's like, yeah, just a touch. It's not quite the same pacing as the others. Maybe it's more like on Andor's level of like taking its time. But by the time it was done with the first two episodes, I realized I feel like it was by design, and it really fits into that narrative of the era that Ahsoka was from, which was the prequel era. So I really enjoyed it. I have a couple things, I'm sure we'll get to them.
Yeah, and just for my overall thoughts, I really liked it a lot. There's a lot of good stuff in here. The pace did throw me off a bit. I was like, oh, this is moving a little slower than I thought it would. I've watched both episodes a second time, and actually watching it a second time, knowing you're going to get that pace, the episodes move very well, and I think you're right. A lot of it's done methodically in terms of just leaving time to sit with the characters and kind of their thoughts and what, or we're seeing like their thought process or what's going on behind, what's going on in their head, possibly, potentially, whatever. So I think was kind of the idea behind the slower pace, and just to get you, for a newer audience, to get to know these characters, because I do think they did a great job of peppering in information for you to know, like, who is, what they're about and kind of what they've gone through, a little bit of their backstory. They really, I think, solidified really well the Sabine-Ezra relationship. Talking about that mystery, I thought they handled that really well. You have Hera coming in, who's kind of like this, again, a mother figure, kind of, hey, I think this would be good for this person. Why don't you talk to this person? Kind of orchestrating things. And then Ahsoka, if you know her from the past couple of live action episodes she's done, it's a little bit of a departure. And I really want to talk about how Rosario is portraying Ahsoka in these first two episodes. But overall, I thought there was a lot of arms crossing. You're right, Kev.
Hey, you did a lot in the cartoon, though. So
it's true.
That's Ahsoka. That's her doing her research. But
yes, and I think overall the tone gave a lot of prequel feels, but also it fits in with this quote unquote Mandoverse, if you will, this era that we're in, the New Republic era. I thought it did. The music was phenomenal. Kevin Kiner is amazing, and there's some really cool stuff that I thought Filoni. I think you're right, Kevin. He went into his bag of Lucasisms and was just like, I want to use this swipe, this transition.
There's one point
and
where like
and
the
also
scene was like during episode 3. I remember there's a scene with I forget what. Tell me, you guys will know better than me. I forget now. But remember when Anakin's like, "I wish I knew," and he's just sitting there. What scene is that? I think Palpatine's like, "Why isn't he going there? Or aren't you going on the mission with him?" And he's like, "I wish I knew."
yes, that was
like
the Utapau.
it was
mission,
this slow scene, right? And that was almost the same exact pacing of scenes that were in this show, where it's like it's okay to slow down a little bit because you know what's coming and what happened before. So,
and I will say, about the pacing gives kind of this impending collision course that you're having with both sides of the story going on, and that's what I got out of it. So I really enjoyed Dave's first episode and Steph Green's second episode. I think you're right. It was a little bit shorter. It was like 44 minutes and a little bit tighter, but both were great episodes. I liked them a lot. A couple nitpicks, but they're just little tiny nitpicks, and so I really enjoyed both of them. Brandon, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that I didn't have a problem with the pacing at all, and I just thought it felt really prequel-y in all like the right ways. Just the way it was cut together and the music and all that, and I just thought it was like a really great like reintroduction to Star Wars, like a good blend of like the old and the new. And I was thinking to myself when I was watching it, like if this was something that came out first, like right after the Disney acquisition, like instead of getting Force Awakens, we got this. Like I think people would have been losing their minds.
In a good way or a bad way?
I think in a good way. I think because it's that blend of like it feels like Star Wars because it feels like the prequels, but it also like has touches of the EU.
I agree with you, but I think that it would have felt too much like the prequels because I think the reason why the Force Awakens blew everyone away was I think they overcorrected, to be honest, but they went such more leanings towards the OT, right, the original trilogy, and they were basically trying to wipe away like anything about the prequels if you think about it.
That's true.
And I think that was the smart move, at least for that first movie, to let people know like, hey, like we are also, for all you freaking nerd boys out there that lose your minds about shit, we're also from that generation that like the OT. Don't worry about it, you know?
I do think it's funny.
Yeah.
I do think it is funny that like all this like serious stuff is going down with like the possible return of the Empire and Imperial spies in the New Republic, and Luke is just like, I'm gonna go build some huts and train like a little Grogu and see who else I can get that has the Force. I'm gonna mind my own business. It's like, Luke, what are you doing? Help out.
They're bridging it to the new trilogy, though. It feels like this is it's like what the Clone Wars. I read somewhere that the clone, and I feel this way, that the Clone Wars really did help bridge between episode 2 and 3. Right? Totally. Like you got all the Clone Wars. And then even Rebels helped between 3 and 4. And I think that this series is doing a lot. I think the Mandalorian does as well, but this one especially.
Andor.
Andor, that's to go from, to the New Hope. But I'm saying to get to the sequel trilogy, about how did everybody all of a sudden have a first order? And I think that all of this new canon is helping inform us like, oh, this is how we got there. Like it's not so out of the blue as you think. Like this has been brewing. You got people that are still, shouting for the Empire and stuff like that.
Definitely. I would definitely want to get into that a little more when we talk about part 2. But to start off this episode, though, what Dave did was he put back in the crawl, but in his own way. And it was red letter text, kind of little Blade Runner-y, if you ask me, with the red text. But the red crawl was a pleasant surprise for me. I don't know if you guys liked it, or would you have preferred just the original type of crawl or no crawl?
I liked it. To me, like stylistically, it felt like something visually that I would read on the back of like an old EU book. Like it'd be like, oh, what's this book about? And that's what that like the style that I would imagine being on there. Like, so I'm like, to me, like it gave me that vibe in like a good way, because that's like kind of where we're going with all the Heir of the Empire stuff. But yeah, I liked the crawl.
I'll remind everyone that it was red text for all of his titles for the last couple episodes of the Clone Wars.
Right.
So I think it's just kind of leaning in on that. And I think that whereas I think a crawl with the normal fanfare and stuff would have been fine, if they're going to save those for the movies, this is the next best way to do it. So
I agree. I think it is the next best way to do it if you're not going to do the original type of crawl, if they save it for the movies, which I think that's what Kathleen Kennedy had said. but I don't know if she meant like this type of crawl or the original type of crawl now. But I guess we'll see whenever those movies come out. So the beginning of the movie, or not the movie, the show with Baylan and Shin Hati, very kind of inverse Phantom Menace. You talking about the prequel vibes? I mean, this was Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, just the dark side of stuff, and it didn't really dawn on me until they get Morgan Elsbeth, and I was like, man, they marched through here kind of like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon went through that Trade Federation ship. So I really appreciated that kind of like parallel, and it was just like, man, this is what it's like to have Dave Filoni at having full control over a story and directing live action. This is like, we could probably expect a lot more throughout the series, and especially in his episode, which I think is like episode 5 or 6, something like that. So how did you guys feel about Baylan, or Kevin, how did you feel about Baylan and Shin's introduction here to these two characters?
I was disappointed that they cut the one scene. It's a deleted scene. It's already been confirmed that Shin looks at Baylan and says, "You were right about one thing, Master. The boarding was blood sore."
Oh.
It's confirmed, Kevin? That's confirmed?
Confirmed, yeah. Mike Zero's channel talks about it. No, yeah, I liked it. I like you said, I dug the reverse Phantom Menace vibe of it. And you got another little cool hallway haunting scene with Baylan kind of stalking his prey and stuff like that. And I thought that was all fantastic. Show him your identification was a banger of a line. So
yeah. Yeah,
it's almost like it's like you might as well wink at the camera. It's like at the end of Kenobi when Kenobi like says hello there, and you might as well be winking, like when he's like, "We'll show you." All right, just like he's doing his best Alec Guinness. But man, Ray Stevenson, I was a big fan of his on Rome, and just he just oozes that class, and like you could just totally tell he's a former Jedi, and now he's just gone astray. But like you just. What a great character. And it just breaks your heart, for our friend Ray, when you see at the end of it, you're reminded that, once the series is over, that's it. I mean, I don't know what his fate is anyway, but it's definitely, there's a end of the road now, unfortunately. And he was such a fan. In his interviews at Celebration, he was talking about how he kept having to like stop because he was making the whoosh noises and stuff. He's a kid, man.
It was great. Brandon, how'd you like the opening of this episode?
I liked it. I was happy that we were like getting right into these two characters, because I think they were like the biggest point of speculation when we saw the first initial trailers come out. And so I was excited to learn more. And I think we did like get like quite a bit. And cool orange lightsabers fighting Star Wars. Not enough TC-14 though. I don't know where TC-14 was.
Dioxis.
Right. I really did like Ray Stevenson's portrayal of Baylan, because I think what he does a good job of portraying this mercenary, but also someone that still has reverence for a Jedi and the Jedi Order in a sense. Because like Shin Hati has a Padawan braid, so he's still like following some of these traditions. He takes that with him, even though he's pretty much a gun for hire. And wherever that takes him, it takes him. And so I think throughout these 2 episodes, he does a really good job of playing both the mercenary and Jedi role. Because even when he talks about Ahsoka, he's got, jumping, I guess, way ahead, it's going to be a shame. There's not many Jedi left, and it's just like holding on. And Morgan Elsbeth even kind of calls him like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm just speaking truth, But before we get into the rest of the episodes, I really want to talk about, and I'm curious about your opinion too, Brandon, because I know you have some experience with the animated Rebels series. But Kevin, how did these characters, Hera, Sabine, most notably, transfer to live action for you?
Everything great. I had asked today on Jedi Way, I asked Laura, I'm like, why is everybody like at an uproar about Hera? Apparently there are a lot of people that didn't like her look and the tattoos on the tendrils or whatever. But like, I thought that they all made the transition. I mean, there are shades of every character in their animated piece. And it's hard because you want to reconcile and make sure that they're the same people. And that's the hardest thing for me that used to be when I'm trying to watch Clone Wars and like, that's not Anakin because Matt Lanter is such a different type of Anakin, right? And why when you see that trailer and you hear Hayden's voice and he seems to be inflecting more on Matt Lanter. It's like Hayden did his research. Hayden did his homework, and however we're going to hear that info, and I don't want to get into that. That's more spoiler. We haven't even seen it yet, but with these, I think that, straight with like the crossing arms, even if it's too much with Ahsoka, and the rebellious spirit of Sabine, I think just really oozes off that screen, just like she did in the cartoon. Or in the animated cartoon, I feel like that's minimizing it. And Hera, I thought, did a great job. I was a fan of Hera on the show, so for me, like, I mean, if she could have been older, and it could have been Vanessa Marshall, like, because she is older in the canon, and if you had the same actress do it, it could have been cool. Like, you had Clancy Brown do his thing, right? Some of that is really cool to see, right? But I get it. You probably want a more experienced on-screen actor, because I'll say this, even when I was a kid actor, like, voice acting, totally different beast than acting in front of a camera. That's why, like, I support doing a Rosario Dawson, even though maybe give Ashley Eckstein a chance. And we don't know. Behind closed doors, maybe she was given a chance and it just didn't work. So I thought the characters jumped to life great. My negative would be, and I that Lothal, remember I've talked about this, like, we will all lose our minds if we ever see Lothal in live action, right? Because it's such a staple of Rebels. Well, we finally see Lothal, but if Andor shot Lothal, if Lothal was on Andor, you would be out there in the tall grasses, moving your hands. You know what I mean? Like, you would feel the wind. You would be outside, right? Lothal, to me, it felt like that the actors were just in front of the volume, and it was a higher res version that they loaded up the Rebels version of Lothal in it. It never quite felt like, oh my God, I'm seeing live action Lothal. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that might have been my only negative about that. Was the look of Lothal. It was cool to finally be there, but, like, did you feel any of the air or the earth of the grasses? You don't feel any of it because it's all either volume or matte paintings or CGI.
Sure.
There's no.
I will say about this Lothal, we never actually spent time with this version of Lothal. We always, in Rebels, it was always under the rule of the Empire, and that epilogue is what it shows us. That Lothal, was a city that thrived after the Empire left, and now you're at this city now where that's the Lothal we saw in the epilogue of Rebels. So we never really spent time with that grittier side of Lothal in terms of, like, out in the fields and the grass like that. I'm not really. I didn't really. That my mind didn't really go there, but I kind of see what you're saying.
Well, compare Ferrix to Lothal, what felt more lived in and real, right? Like,
I would tell you, Ferrix reminds me of occupied Lothal, and we don't have that version of Lothal in Ahsoka because that's not what it is anymore. They liberated Lothal, and so now it's a little bit more illustrious and up to date, if you will, modern type of city, because the Empire has no fingers on that planet anymore. So you're seeing a more upscale, more lively Lothal, even though I will say it didn't really have a lot of life to it, in my opinion. They had some shots here and there, but I thought we could have done a little more Cloud City type of ship going through the city type of, let us see a little bit more of the city. You saw a little bit, but not too much, and I don't know if we will going on further in the series. Maybe we will.
To answer your question, though, and it is actually a good thing as far as I thought all of the animated characters translated perfect to live action. That wasn't my thing, was that almost too well, where parts of it you're like, oh, it's like more animation, because they were just they fell into their roles great. And I think that is a testament to the actors doing their research, and I'm excited for that. And it's excited for what's beyond,
I will say, I thought the best that translated, my most favorite that translated well, was Natasha Luberdizzo's Sabine. I thought that transferred pretty seamlessly. I thought she really nailed the essence of Sabine. I think it's a little easier to nail a rebellious side of a character and have that kind of wit and charm to it. I think she nailed it perfectly. Hera is still, that one's always going to be tough for me. That's my own hang-up, and it's nothing against Mary Elizabeth Winstead, just because of Vanessa Marshall's voice. It's her voice. Like, to me, it is, like, there's such a warmth in Vanessa Marshall's voice that she gives to Hera that I don't know. Like, first of all, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is not trying to do a Hera voice, which I appreciate, and she shouldn't. She should make the character her own. It's a live-action version. And it's just my own personal hiccup that I'm not holding against anybody. It's just my own thing that eventually, with more and more episodes, I'll get over it and I'll be like, yeah, that's Hera. It is going to take me personally a little bit of time, but I think. Oh, and also I will say, and it's probably not fair, but and we've seen a little bit in the trailers with Iman Esfahandi playing Ezra Bridger. I don't know. I wasn't really sold on it, but it was like he said like 17 words. So it's
I was showing pictures of Ezra to Dasha, and while he was on the screen, and one thing they should have done is at least. We're going to run into Ezra several years after Rebels anyway, so that's when he can gain some of that, like, fat, or not fat, but, some weight around the neck.
Sure, yeah.
But, like, when you see a picture or video of, like, him in the scene right before where, like, the whales are about to take away the ship.
Yeah, where he's, like, 17.
Yeah, he's 17. Yeah. He's, like, nice, and, like, he has that nice, relax. But I'm saying,
like, you're talking to yourself.
All right, yeah.
But he's nice and svelte and, like, young, right? Like, whereas in this, it's, like, kind of, like, middle-aged. I get it. It's like when they didn't de-age Anakin in Kenobi, which kind of bugged me too.
But I mean, like I said, he said like 20 words, so I'm like, I gotta wait.
He did a good job on the 20 words he said. It's just, he's a sandwich. He's like it's Rocket Raccoon would say. He's one sandwich away from being fat. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So maybe out there in the outer rim, he'll calm down a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah, Brandon, with your limited Rebels animated series watch. How do these characters translate for you?
Listen, we at Scoundrels Inc. do not condone fat shaming of any kind, even though he is a Jedi Knight and he could take it. I liked the portrayal of all the characters. I was a huge fan of Sabine in particular. I really liked that speeder bike sequence. I thought that was fun. Like, it was different. Like, I know, like, Nerd Chronic already made an edit where he put like sabotage over it, and I'm like,
it's great.
It does like kind of like feel a little more like Star Trek 09 than Star Wars, but it worked for me. I liked it.
That's true. That's a good point, actually.
It gave it like that little edge that I thought like maybe it like needed to be like a little fresh and new. So I liked it, and I don't know. Lethal was okay.
I will say that. Sabine's entrance, that music track gave me. I was like, sounds like a music track I would have heard out of like Scott Pilgrim, and like that kind of like that gritty grunginess to it. So I was digging it for that.
That's what those kids on Tatooine listen to.
Like a
the
track
ones with the fancy bikes.
Star Trek 09 is what it sounded like.
So yeah, but I also will give credit to Dave because like he could have played it safe and not had a guitar track.
He could have played some jizz.
He could have played straight up jizz.
No, I'm not going to the thing.
No. All right, I want to talk about this temple, though. This temple opening scene with Ahsoka. Everyone was like Indiana Jones, right? Am I wrong, or did everyone think Indiana Jones?
I feel like everyone was talking about HK droids, KOTOR reference. Come on.
Every time I heard that, I thought of Kevin.
Thank you.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Every time I see an HK droid, I think of Kevin too.
They call me KOTOR Kevin in these parts. KOTOR Kevin.
KOTOR Kevin.
I was wondering why Ahsoka wasn't using the force speed to run away from the blast. And then I was also
because you need to be next to your master.
No one's done force speed since the Phantom Menace. The coolest shot ever.
Yeah, like she was running fast. But not
I'm looking at them fly away in that hallway, and I'm like, oh my god, this prequels are going to be the greatest thing ever. And then no one ever does it again.
No one could dare replicate what George did in the Phantom Menace. No one would even dare.
Not even Ahsoka outrunning what could have only been seen as a nuclear detonation. Because how do you fit that much explosive inside those tiny droids? I have no idea.
Hey, it's Star Wars, man.
It's like a whole city, man.
I really liked when Ahsoka picks up the orb of the star map, and you get that music swelling with the horn. That was like such an Indiana Jones, like seeing the idol in the tomb. It was just like one of those. I don't know if you guys got those Indiana Jones vibes.
I got Guardians of the Galaxy vibes because of the orb.
Yeah. Oh, sure, yeah.
I did feel like the puzzle was a little too easy to solve, and why like Ahsoka just gave up immediately. She's like, I gotta go see Sabine. I'm like, did you not think to make the symbol on the ball match the symbol in the temple?
Yeah, and it's not like a complicated. Like there's a Rubik's cube my daughter got at a birthday party that forms a freaking unicorn. I still haven't figured it out. Like give me colors, I can do it, but I cannot for the life of me make this unicorn for my daughter. And so Yeah, give me that orb.
So you
10
relate.
minutes.
So you relate.
I
You made it
relate.
a
No,
Rubik's
because that
Cube.
orb is like 10 times easier. That you should see this thing, and it's small. You're never mind.
It's like 4 spins and you're in. That's it.
Yeah.
Beep 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 beep.
True. But I thought that temple sequence was really fun, really cool entrance for Sabine, because it did give me like, as playing Jedi Knight, Jedi Fallen Order, and Jedi Survivor. All of those, like the puzzles type of thing. I was like, you gotta line up stuff, and I was like, yeah, I did that like a couple months ago. So
Did you get vibes that Ahsoka was doing Cal Kestis's power of like memory from
the Echo, the Force Echo?
Echo?
That was in the second episode when she goes back to the.
Oh, I
the
thought she was doing it even in the tomb. It felt like she was like touching.
Oh, maybe.
Please,
maybe, yeah, because
I saw Legolas do that in Two Towers, dude.
I want to ask you guys' opinion on this Ahsoka Sabine relationship, because it is very fraught. And Sabine's like, Ahsoka left me. Ahsoka's like, Sabine's not ready. I don't know. Like,
I'll tell you something. I can relate. All right, my daughter. Okay. I'll look at her and I'll say, "Hey,
oh God,
do not walk in the house until we take your shoes off. We've just been at the park." And I'll be like, "Please don't take your shoes off." And she'll look at me with a little smile, and then just start walking down the hallway with her little shoes on. You think she's cute? And so my wife, the second that she says, the orb stays here, and they cut to a shot of Sabine, and my wife immediately was like, she's not listening. Like, she's going to be taken off of that orb right away. So as Ahsoka, as a parent, I feel you. That is so annoying that kids never listen. And then she gets in trouble and stuff. But then, yeah, so they definitely are fraught with a little, and it's funny that we never saw any of that. And by the way, Brandon, just so you know, they barely talk in Rebels. So like, this is all.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know I've barely seen Rebels, but like, it seemed like there was like a lot of like hidden history that like we don't know about, or like, they spent a lot of time together, and it must have been like after that ending scene.
So it should be noted that everything long hair Sabine, that all takes place before the epilogue in Rebels. Yes.
They made the Rebels epilogue. Look at it in a totally different way now.
So all of this we're seeing. So like you could literally watch.
But doesn't like Ahsoka have like a white cloak and like a fucking cane?
Yeah,
like,
they didn't nail it. She didn't quite do. Yeah, she's not Gandalf the Grey in that scene.
I don't believe.
Well, so like there is this. I thought about this too. I thought about that too, Brandon. I'm like, maybe we redo this. I doubt it, but like, what if they redid it?
What are they going to do it again with?
I don't know. It'd be really weird. Yeah, it would be really weird.
All right, time to now find Zeb. We found Ezra. Now let's find Zeb.
Right.
No, man. I think that's just him, which is shocking because
I got to talk to Dave.
Huh?
Well, also, I don't think Dave probably thought he was ever going to make a live action Ahsoka series at that point. He's like, this is how I think Ahsoka would look all these years later.
Why would Ahsoka suddenly have a cane, which we haven't seen her in the whole episode? It would be like
I'm just saying, a white
cloak thing.
A white cloak would have probably been the easiest thing for the prop department to make that day.
Not if it's dirty. Not if there's lots of dust.
You gotta keep that
around. You gotta keep that shit clean, bro.
I don't know.
Not if you're Padme Amidala and Geonosis. Let me tell you.
Nothing but skin.
She would do her duty.
She would do her duty. I want to ask you guys about this.
My daughter does her duty, so sometimes I got to pull off to the side of the road. And okay, go ahead.
I want to ask you guys about this notion because they touch on this Sabine and Ahsoka. They don't say it overtly, but it's like it's there in the air about being a Jedi without Force capabilities.
She has Force capability, just little.
So like I think that was another thing I thought
you had little ability in sports, Frank, and in high school, like you're always picked last. It's kind of like that. Like you're still picked. You still have the ability to like throw the ball, maybe it hits, and maybe it goes in the hoop. But chances are it's not. That's what the droid is basically saying.
Listen, I thought this was a really interesting idea, and I'm happy that they're touching on it. And I think like a lot of other fans will hopefully be excited about this, where it's like they're kind of pursuing the idea that anybody could use the Force as long as you like train hard enough. Like some people are more naturally gifted than others. Like Rey and Luke Skywalker and Anakin can all wake up one day and lift a rock and go, "Oh, look at that! I can do that now." But like people like Han Solo can't do that. But like the idea that like if Han Solo had a good teacher, after time he could learn to tap into the Force. You know, like I like that idea that like anybody could do it if they
Just gotta be
take the
open to it.
training. They gotta be open to it.
That reminds me of in Jay and Chasing Amy, Jay and Silent Bob. Silent Bob's trying to make his cigarette float. Like,
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I do want to point out that there is an episode of Rebels, Trials of the Darksaber with Sabine when Kanan is training Sabine with the Darksaber, and late to the party's actually tweeted this clip out a couple times about Kanan's talking to Hera, and Hera's like, "Is it not going well because she doesn't have the Force?" And he's like, "It's not about that. She just hasn't opened herself up to the Force." So I think they have laid seeds here and there, I think, for the possibility. I don't think it means Sabine is going to have the Force capabilities of, like, lifting a rock, let's say. But I think there's this other idea that you can still be a Jedi without having the Force capabilities to, you know, Force push or jump or what have you. This idea of following the Jedi way, you know, doesn't mean you need to have the Force or have a great sensitivity to the Force. And so I think, because I've certainly never thought that, you know, the only way you could be a Jedi is if you had the Force within you, you know, or that you could control the Force, or if you had some training. That's what a Jedi is, someone who's well trained with the Force. But there's this other idea of you following the Jedi way means you're a Jedi without having to being able to lift up a rock or, you know, push someone aside or do a Jedi mind trick. Like, none of that means anything to the Jedi way. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's this interesting idea presented here that if you follow the Jedi way, then you are a Jedi,
Brandon,
even if you have the Force or not.
Brandon, would you like to be a Jedi?
I would like to be, yes.
I grant you the right Jedi Knight.
Easiest trials ever. But
wait, so Kevin, do you
I feel like I'm annoying you, Frank, because like I know you like to do your the three heads, the three big heads.
Yeah.
And, like,
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a pain. Yeah.
Because I think it should be like this. Don't do the three heads. Do it like I'm gonna just make it hard on you, dude. You're gonna be like, what the heck, dude, Kevin? There's just a wall now, and now he's on top of me.
You know what? If people can't see your face, then they don't
probably
see
a
your
bonus.
face.
Yeah.
But Kevin, do you disagree or agree with my assessment of what I think they're floating out there?
I think I'm an old get off my lawn old man where I'm like, no, I think that some people are just born and they can choose to tune to it and not. I do like the concept of it. I think that opens up the world, and maybe I always thought that the term The Force Awakens was like that something happened where there was just a collective fucking jizz blast all over the galaxy that basically sprinkled little bits of Force on everyone, where the Force awakened within everyone, where everybody can do it, and that's how maybe Finn is a Jedi by the next time we see him. So I like that, but I do also like that, like, no, like some, it's like you're born with it and they get that calling and they need to do it. You know, it's like the concept to me that like Owen Lars could have focused and been a Jedi Knight, like it's a little stretch. Now I like that I think there are people that followed the Jedi way and followed their ideals, and that like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean they're floating rocks and learning how to use a lightsaber. So I think I'm open for any type. Look, how about this? I'm open to see that in action and in practice.
Sure.
Until then, I do like my old standard, like, no, like it's kind of like you're chosen. Not everyone is chosen for this life, and the ones that are, you know, they make great sacrifices, or they're, you know, ripped away from their families, like you know, Obi-Wan was from his little brother.
I just think it's like anything. Like some people are born with like more aptitude for it than other people, but like everyone can learn it to some degree if they have the proper training. And like you look at someone like, even like look at Leia, she didn't even like learn how to use the Force probably until like her like mid to late 20s, early 30s. And before that, if no one ever was like, hey, you're the daughter of Darth Vader, you can probably use the Force, she probably would have gone her whole life without knowing that she could use the Force.
Right. So I mean, like, look, Luke tapped into it when he was like 18, 19 years old. Rey, the same thing. You know, talking about Leia as well. I mean, so there's precedent for people later in their life who have the Force awakened within them that they start to tap into it. So it's not out of the realm of possibility with Sabine. It's just different because we've been following this character for a while through the animated series, right? So we've never seen that, and it could possibly happen with Finn if they ever do make a story with him within the movies or whatnot. So, and people are totally on board for that. So I think, people wouldn't be so against Sabine having the Force awakened within her. I think it's a long shot, but the possibility is there, and I think it's a fun one to entertain. All right, so let's get to this end of the episode where I think we're going to have a little more of a gripe. I know Kevin does, and I do too, a little bit as well. It's Sabine and Shin having their duel, which I thought was really fun. It was a really great duel, great choreography. I love seeing kind of these two students kind of passing or displaying training from a prequel era Jedi that's now in this New Republic era, which I think is kind of an interesting dynamic there. But Sabine ends up getting stabbed and living to tell about it. Kevin, in as few words as possible.
I'll keep it brief. If you want to see my rant, I did on the Jedi Way. Same day this does. I go off about it. I will just say this. If you have a bowl of water and you have a hot piece of metal, like molten metal, like an iron rod, and think Game of Thrones scene, and you put that little piece of metal into the water starts boiling and bubbling and instantly is making that water boiling, okay? A lightsaber is probably 3 million times the strength of a hot metal rod. And if it goes inside your body, I just think that it should be an instant fatality. If blaster bolts are killing everybody, you get shot by a blaster bolt, you're usually dead in the Star Wars universe, right? If a blaster bolt's killing you, you should not be able to survive a lightsaber stab wound. And it's now happened twice. And this is just coming from me as a huge Qui-Gon Jinn fan, that he's being gypped. We have to now retcon it that he died. I said this on Jedi Way. He probably died of a fucking cardiac arrest from the heat of the stab wound. Because apparently, if you're young, you can survive it. And it should just be one of those things that you don't live if you get stabbed. That's the one thing you shouldn't do, is get stabbed with a lightsaber, right?
I've looked at Qui-Gon Jinn's reaction to Sabine surviving the stab wound.
I also mentioned this. That bald girl in Jedi Survivor, what's her name, Frank?
Seer.
She gets stabbed the same exact way and then dies in Cal Kestis' hands. Dies. Stabbed. Yeah. Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't played the game. So I don't like that you could pick and choose. And she's already told by the droid that she has the least amount of force ability in the history of the Jedi Order. So that's not keeping her alive. Strength of will isn't keeping her alive. Just nick her shoulder, nick her leg. That's what happened to Obi-Wan.
Just modern medicine.
Dude. You don't need to. Everybody doesn't need to get stabbed and live. That's why the Kenobi cut we did, Reva doesn't survive. And I liked Reva as a character, to be honest, but she shouldn't have survived. You can't get stabbed by Darth Vader and live, and you shouldn't be stabbed by any sort of lightsaber. And I can get into specifics what would probably happen. I mean, we have a scientist here, but I feel like if you were stabbed with something that was the heat of the sun, it would boil all of the blood, all in the water, would be flowing out of your eyeballs would pop, your blood would flow out of your ears. To get stabbed by a lightsaber should be a horrific, terrible thing, straight out of a horror movie. And you're getting stabbed, and then she's just fine the next day, like with a wrap, like, oh, cool, done, like... No, we're taking away the power of what's the point of worrying about anyone in a duel? The only thing you need to worry about then is getting your head lopped off. I mean, that obviously, if someone survives that, I'm going to have a real problem. I mean, they already had Maul survive getting the bottom part. You get your bottom part taken off. Let me tell you something. As someone who has major surgery down there, like, well, not down there, like a little above down there, but like, it is a very hard thing to recover from. I swear I was going to rant. It's a little bit of a different itch.
Yeah, how does Maul go to the bathroom? That's what we really want to know.
He doesn't, man.
Probably has a colostomy, let's be honest.
He just burns it off with his rage.
Right. So I will say that when Sabine got stabbed, I was like, come on.
I was like, oh no.
I was like, really? Because, and here's why. Because we know she's not going to die. We know this, right?
Nick her.
And so, and yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, nick her. Give her some, the Obi-Wan style, the way Count Dooku did, right, to Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones. Like, do that. I'd rather see that than someone get stabbed, because I'm like, I agree. I think, if you get stabbed like that, you should probably perish. But if you get nicked on the arm and leg, whatever, Yeah,
Have you seen
you
those
know,
real lightsabers that these guys make out of like a garage? And it's like this
yeah,
crazy high-powered flame torch, and they'll put the flame torch inside like a thing of foam or a
a
model
steel
or a
plate. I've seen them do it. A steel
yeah, and,
plate.
and
Yeah.
everything's melting around it. And again, that is just the high-powered torch. We're thinking that a lightsaber thing is probably still
Well,
like
Kevin,
thousands of times more powerful.
let me just say, I don't ever like to apply real world physics to Star
I'm
Wars
complaining
physics
about like
because
that wouldn't really happen in a world where
yeah,
people make floating rocks and little green.
Listen,
Right.
somehow the
Exactly.
lightsabers are able to keep all the energy compact to
exactly.
that
I don't like to
beam.
think about it. I
You
don't like to
know?
think about it. I just like that it happens in Star
It doesn't
Wars. That's
lose
all,
any
you know?
heat to radiation. You know, it has to be all through conduction.
I
not
love
even
my
convection.
Star Wars realistic, Jar Jar, damn it.
But
Otherwise,
I will
every time
say-
they turn it on, they'd
yeah.
be sweating bullets. You know?
Right, exactly. So I
You know
think
their skin if they're holding it this close. Like,
right, and same thing. If you're going to complain about that, then you better complain about Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting on Mustafar. Like, there's just no way. There's just no way you're ever
their
going to do
skin
that.
would spontaneously combust.
I was
like
watching
that.
Return of the King earlier. The way that Frodo and Sam just leap over that lava unscathed, I don't buy it.
Oh,
Not
burn
gonna
all
happen,
of their ass hairs like right up
Yeah.
the skin, dude.
They don't even wear
Oh, yeah.
shoes.
You know
Brandon-
how hot it is when you go to the water park and you don't have your flip flops or your
Right,
and
exactly.
you go on that ground and you're walking. Now they're-
Or even that thin layer of water that's above that
Yeah,
you think
it's
you can
still-
walk on, but it's still hot because
you,
it's
you're walking around like an idiot, like on yeah.
yeah. Brandon, what did you think of the Shin Sabine fight to close out the part 1 of Ahsoka?
I liked it. I thought it was cool. The stabbing was interesting. I was like, oh no. I thought she was like in trouble, but then I thought I was like, is Ahsoka gonna do like a force heal or something? like
Oh yeah, I thought that too. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, everyone's dishing out the force heal. She learned it from Grogu. Everything's fine.
Right.
But then, yeah, she just like goes to the hospital. They stitch her up. It's all good. Just spray
Yeah.
a little Bacta on it.
I know.
Fine.
I thought maybe we were gonna see her like in a Bacta tank, like Boba Fett. You know, I was like, oh,
They're gonna be like, well, actually,
For God's sake, sorry. Go ahead.
Wait, what?
actually, you know,
I agree with you. Like, at least give her a freaking Bacta tank.
there's gonna be some retcon where we're gonna find out that Mandalorians actually like have their livers in like a different location, and it's all like it's all out of whack.
Right.
Their hearts are like down here.
You know how they give out those books for like,
Like Vulcans.
the intersections of like starships, where you get one for like every humanoid species in Star Wars, like where everyone's organs are at exactly. Like
I
here's a
just want-
safe zone.
I want them to make that book so then Alex Damon has to review it on his channel. Be like, guys, the
Yeah.
newest book came out from Star Wars. It's Star Wars Anatomy Explained. Look at the femur bone on freaking
Oh, boy.
Isla Secura.
I'm actually more concerned about episode 2 when Balin Skull mentions fairy tales. They have fairy tales in the Star Wars universe.
Well, yeah.
Moon over Rigel 7. They had it in Star Trek 2, guy. Come on.
Well,
So
Star Trek
before
is just Earth in the future, dude.
Yeah. Before we move on to
Row,
talk about
row,
the
row.
second part, I do want to talk about real quick. I want to point out Shin's probe droid when finding Sabine, very cool, a la Darth Maul, as you brought up, Kevin. I love that little thing. I love that little callback to a prequel era. And then I do want to ask you guys about this line that Ahsoka says in the episode, and she says, in regards to leaving the Jedi Order when she's talking to Hera on her ship, and she says, "Sometimes the right reasons have the wrong consequences.
What a great
What
line.
do we do then?" And I
Yeah.
think
That hit me.
that line pretty much explains why Ahsoka is the way that she is right now in these 2 episodes, because to me the way Rosario Dawson is portraying Ahsoka was a little weird to me, just because that's not the Ahsoka that I remember from the animated series, or even and like I can't put too much stock into her episode of Mando and Book of Boba Fett because it was very short and it was very, well, at least the Jedi one was very pinpoint, it was very straightforward. This series, there's gonna be more nuance to the character, more exploration of the character at this point in her life, in the timeline. And I thought this line pretty much explains all the stuff that's going on within her that she has yet to deal with. I don't know, what did you guys, Brandon, what did you think about Ahsoka, Rosario's portrayal of Ahsoka and this line?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that line was just like, it's across the board. Like, that line resonates with me deeply. It's like, that's why being an adult is like so freaking hard. It's like you do the right thing and you're still somehow punished for it. What's up with that? Can I vent? Is this my therapy hour? No.
Sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
But no, I loved it, and I thought that was like interesting because I'm sitting there watching it. I'm like, no, it's so good. Don't be hard on yourself. Me and Frank were talking about this, and you did the right thing leaving the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Anakin should have left too. That's on him. But I
did leave the Jedi Order just a little bit longer, a little later.
Just like at the worst
a little more
time
dramatically.
possible. And he's like, I'm going to take out some kids on the way out too.
That kid was
Take a little Timmy with me.
Yeah, freaking Liam, who like lowers the blinds.
Liam, yeah.
That's not the same Liam that's the one that's killed, is it?
No. Master Skywalker,
I mean,
where are we
you
going
see the
to?
At that
You
point,
see the
Liam was
guilt.
either a
By the
Padawan or
way,
he got sent home for not.
You know
cutting
why
off
he got
the
killed?
youngling.
It's because he called Master Skywalker Master Skywalker. He's taunting him. It's like he's, you know, I was never given the title of Master. I mean, come on. He's
And then
fighting
another.
for Master.
There's actually an extended cut of that scene where he cuts down that kid, and the other kid goes, "Jedi Knight Skywalker, but what are you doing?" And he goes, "That
You're
is
good.
my correct title."
And then Kelleran Beck walks
You're
in and
good.
goes, "What'd you do?" He's like, "I took out Liam." He's like, "Yeah, you had to come."
Yeah.
Nobody
I
liked
think-
Liam.
But I'm gonna take the rest of these kids.
You do see the guilt in Ahsoka, though. You see the
Yeah.
guilt in her
Mhm.
face. I think, I mean, based on like early spy reports and like how Hayden's in it, I think we're going to see the world between worlds. I think we're going to see, I think the way that she's going to come to grips with it, I think she blames herself. I think she thinks if she was with Anakin, she could have stopped it, and maybe she could have. But I think we're going to all learn as an audience that no, it was going to go that way either way, and we're going to see. And I don't know how much of it we'll see, but I think we're going to see glimpses of it. Hopefully done a little better than like how the Flash did it, where they were, you know, the Flash, the newest movie, it was showing like it had like Christopher Reeve and all that shit. But it was all
that was
weird
just
and like gooey and stuff like that.
horrible. Yeah.
I feel like the world between worlds. I mean, I can only say it because in my KOTOR Convergence movie, we have a sequence, and good on anyone that's following and listening this far in that's a big fan of the movie, because I'm not saying this on the channel or on the thing, but when they go in the world between worlds, in order to explain why my Revan looks different than the other character's Revan, like they walk by windows that are peeking into countless other Revans, and there's Revans that look like Logan, there's Revans that look like his Revan, there's Revans that look like Lego Revan, and it's all like going to be seen through this tapestry. And I have a prediction. I know a lot of people say Hayden's in it, we're going to see full-on scenes. I don't know about that, but I do think we're going to get a glimpse into Ahsoka realizing, I think she's going to come to grips by the end of this season. She's going to lose her guilt from it. I think it's a little bit of about kind of like Kenobi having that guilt with Anakin. She's feeling it too. Why wouldn't she? She would absolutely feel it as strongly as the only difference is that Kenobi had to live with the fact that he thought he killed him, right? You have Ahsoka that's like, oh, I abandoned him, and while I was gone, I was always there for my master, and now when I'm gone, he did all of this, right? And she probably blames herself. And I think we're going to get a peek into the world between worlds that's going to tell her and inform her. Hopefully she finds out not just by being shown, but that she'll come to that conclusion herself, that there was nothing she could have done. Because yeah, you're right, Frank. She's just, there's a step. She's a little more subdued and a little like not
more
like
stoic than
stoic and like. Yeah. And then, man, you get that look from Hera, like, and you don't see Ahsoka saying it. Laura brought this up on Jedi Way, like Ahsoka. She says, "Oh, sometime I bet you were difficult for your master," and we have our back turned to Ahsoka, so we don't see Ahsoka's face, but you see Hera realizing, like, "Oh man, I must have touched a nerve."
I must have,
and that's good, like, subtle acting right there too.
Yeah. I will say that, you know, I am curious how Ahsoka could rectify that, because in the World Between Worlds episode, when Ezra's tempted with wanting to save Kanan, Ahsoka says to Ezra, "You can't save your master any more than I can save mine." Like, at that point, Ahsoka has kind of come to terms that she could not have saved Anakin. But this is also before the Galactic Civil War became in full swing, when this is before the Death Star was even, finished, right? So I don't know, like, what happened between the time she got off Malachor and went to go pick up Sabine,
Imagine
what
that
happened?
feeling.
to Ahsoka, and then going through the entire war, whatever she did, we don't know. And we can talk about that.
Well, if you knew
but,
someone that like was about to say, "I'm going to do it," and it's this atrocious thing, and you just push out, you don't try to stop him or call the authorities, and then this thing happens that's bad, and lots of people die, like you would feel really like guilty over it. And I bet that's a little bit of what she's feeling.
Or that she like at least wasn't there to try. I think is probably more at the crux of her guilt with that she left and never had the opportunity to try and save him.
Yeah,
and maybe not necessarily believing that she
maybe
could have, but at
that.
least maybe we will. Maybe we will.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Okay, let's
like,
get into the second episode.
Snoke, dude, I'm telling you, we're gonna see it.
Maybe. Oh boy. Let's get into the second episode titled "Toil and Trouble." Starts with Ahsoka, and Sabine and Hu Yang in the med bay there, and she ends up helping Ahsoka track down the HK droid and getting location to go back to Corellia and all that stuff. It was a great scene showing Sabine how she's really good with like electronics and like tinkering and stuff like that, and how smart she is with technology and that sort of thing. But the one thing that I really did love about Sabine being in this med bay thing is her scene with Hu Yang, voiced by David Tennant, who voiced him in Clone Wars. First of all, Hu Yang is awesome so far in this series. He's in it way more than I thought he was going to be. Brandon, this conversation again about, you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier about, I was like, yeah, of everyone that I've known out in the Jedi Order, you got zero skill, but you can still be a Jedi. Here's Ezra's lightsaber.
Yeah, but like wasting your time, and she's like, the only person who's wasting their time is you. Come on, dude.
I liked what he said about the lightsaber too, where he said like it was Ezra's, but he passed it on to you. It's yours now, and you've even made your own modifications to it. Which is
very
fun.
Harry Potter, huh? The wand chooses the wizard.
Yeah, which I think was like we saw that too in like the Force Awakens, where it's like Luke's lightsaber chooses you. So
yeah, right.
I think it's like the same thing where Ezra's lightsaber isn't now rightfully Sabine's, and I thought that was like a nice little scene there.
Yeah. It seemed to be like a pep talk to Sabine, really, to get her in gear. Kevin, what are your thoughts on Hu Yang, though, so far?
I like him. I think he's a funny droid. I think he means well. I think he wants to see Sabine mentored by Ahsoka. I think, you know what I mean? Like, I think that would be his preference. And he keeps making little jokes about it throughout the series, So I'm a fan of his. It's cool that it's the same voice actor, too. I like I said, I like that they're carrying a lot of that over. Like that's great. Yeah. And I understand why they can't do it for some of the bigger parts, but if you can do it for any of the other parts, I'm curious if I don't think so, but I think the little senator kid that gets put up in the stage, he's from the Rebel show
Jai
too.
Kell. Yeah, he's
different actor.
Different actor. It's played by Vinnie Thomas in the show. I don't know who's his voice actor, but Jai Kell he met Ezra at the Imperial Academy when Ezra was trying to get some information from the Imperial Academy, helped bust him out of the Imperial Academy and helped him and his mom. Yeah. And then in the last season, he comes back in the last season of Rebels in like that last arc on Lothal and helps Sabine. And so he knows Sabine, and he helps Ezra and Sabine get out of that cantina and away from the Imperials. And he's part of Ryder Hazadi's resistance on Lothal. So he's been in
helmet too. The helmet.
Oh yeah.
You see Ezra's helmet, the Scout Trooper helmet that's painted orange and green and brown or whatever. It's in his room in the communications tower.
I did like that there was a pile of like Stormtrooper helmets, because Ezra had a bunch of Stormtrooper helmets because he was always infiltrating a base or a ship or whatever. Yeah. So I did like he had like all these helmets there, and probably some Sabines as well. But yeah, I really like that Sabine Hu Yang conversation, because I think that conversation and the one that Sabine has with Ahsoka does a lot for to inform of like the type of path that Sabine can go down in terms of being a Jedi, and it doesn't matter if you have the Force, and Hu Yang basically saying to Ahsoka, you need an apprentice, like someone to watch your back. He's like, that's for a Jedi apprentice. You should probably have one of them, right? So and that's coming from a droid that's been around the block in terms of the Jedi Order, right? So I think that gives a lot of credence to if this droid from the Jedi Order, through the highs and lows, is saying like, hey, here's this lightsaber. It doesn't matter, if you don't have the Force or not, you can't wield the Force. It's it's not about that necessarily. So, anyways, going back to the star map on Cetos where Balin and Shin are at, this is where it gets really wild. You're talking about some EU stuff, Brandon. This is where they really throw it out there because they pretty much confirmed. I think everyone was thinking this, that Morgan Elsbeth was a Night Sister. She really confirms it here, and she talks about an ancient civilization, ancient people coming who made this, basically compass of sorts, star map, and theories can go run wild with this one. Brandon, you've been talking about EU stuff. What did you think about this part?
I'm just like holding my breath, sitting on the edge of my seat, waiting for someone to say Yusong Vong. I don't know.
Man,
That would be cool.
Could you imagine? But like, I think I was never like an EU person, but like I remember like most people thought that was kind of dumb, but it would be really neat to see it done in like a cool way. But I mean, just like the fact that because like we always talk about the Star Wars galaxy a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and now we're talking about like actually we can connect and travel to and communicate with another galaxy in this what's now the Star Wars universe, like not the Star Wars galaxy. There are multiple galaxies that we can go to. Like, what is going on in this other galaxy? Is it just like this one ancient civilization that like may or may not be still around? But like, Balin was talking about like, if we help them out, we're going to have more power than you could ever imagine. So do they think that like there is this civilization or this power in this other galaxy that they can like tap into to like bring back to their galaxy, to like bring back the Empire? I don't know. There's like a lot of interesting, cool ideas.
Yeah. It's interesting because like the Yuzhan Vong is Legends, and that was introduced in a book series, the New Jedi Order book series, back in like the early 2000s, late 90s. And then when Timothy Zahn wrote the new canon book, Thrawn Alliances, he introduces the Grist, who are in the unknown regions. Like the Yuzhan Vong are from like that other galaxy in Legends, a different galaxy. The Grist are from like the unknown regions. Like, so it's like technically still within the Star Wars main galaxy, but not attached. But Dave could be like, no, I want to push them a little further out into that galaxy. And so I guess like theorizing, it could be the Yuzhan Vong, it could be the Grist, or it could be a completely different civilization.
Be James Tiberius Kirk guy.
Right.
Could you imagine?
Kevin, ancient civilization, where does your mind go?
The ancient civilization is the Federation of Planets. Sorry, continue.
My mind would go to KOTOR with the Rakatan, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Or the Uzan Khan or whatever. But hopefully it's something brand new. If they do the Uzan Khan, it would be pretty cool because they're immune to the Force. And it's kind of like the Isik Samari or whatever those creatures were that Thrawn had. But I don't know if we need to introduce some crazy new civilization that's going to be a new enemy for everyone, because we've got to deal with Thrawn. Like, I think that the Dave Filoni movie is going to be worried about Thrawn and him coming back with a new empire and fighting that. So maybe a tease for something in the future. I think Uzan Khan would be I'm saying it wrong, but I remember that. I mean, then we might get to see a scene where a moon falls on Chewbacca and he fucking violently like roars against the moon as it collides with him.
He catches it, throws it back.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, so I'm really curious about what kind of doors this could open for future Star Wars stories. If there's a whole other galaxy to explore and create stories in. I mean, if you put on your Disney Lucasfilm business cap, you're like, in order to get untethered from the Star Wars universe that we're in, you could just go to another galaxy and create your whole different set of rules and characters and plans and whatnot, and not be tethered to the original Star Wars universe, or galaxy rather. I don't know if that's like their line of thinking, but I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up happening.
Well,
but
wait, didn't they say too that Skeleton Crew?
Skeleton Crew, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew probably, that might be the setup galaxy for Skeleton Crew, which then still you can still
what's going on with Skeleton Crew? What do you say?
So the kids, they stumble into basically it's like a Stranger Things Stand By Me type of thing. situation with these kids where they get lost somewhere out in deep space. It could be unknown regions. It could be this new galaxy. That's what I'm thinking. Like,
Okay.
this new galaxy thing that they're setting up could be where the main plot of Skeleton Crew might take place.
Interesting. I feel like they can go like one of two ways with it. Either they go to this new galaxy to get Thrawn and Ezra, and when they get there, that ancient civilization is like long extinct, and there's like no intelligent life in that galaxy at all. Or like maybe there is like a threat out there, like that other alien race, and they get like trapped in that galaxy, like whatever this bridge is that connects them, that gets severed at the end of this show, and maybe this is a threat that can show up later on for like Rey has to deal with, where like this civilization finds a way back into the galaxy once Rey has her own Jedi Order, and that gives her an external threat. I don't know.
I like that.
Totally. I like that too. So let's move on to Corellia, because this is where a good chunk of the episode takes place. They kind of I like how they kind of explain the politics at this point in the galaxy. With there's ex-Imperial everywhere, of course. It's a huge empire, and to keep things running, you're going to have some of these guys in place to keep all the levers and wheels moving. It's a great scene with Hera, Ahsoka, and that clerk, I forget his name, but kind of explaining everything. And then you see the hyperdrive core of a super Star Destroyer start taking off, and Hera goes after it, and Ahsoka jumps down, and she ends up fighting Marok and Marok, and I can't remember how to quite say his name, but I thought it was a great saber fight. I feel like we're gonna get one every episode. I don't know.
Who do you think he is?
Some regular dude that failed Jedi turned Inquisitor. I don't think he's
no one of note.
Yeah, no one of note.
Yeah, we haven't really had anyone address the fact that he's an Inquisitor. Like no one's like going around like, hey, these guys are rolling with an Inquisitor too, and these Jedi mercenaries. Like, what's
on that temple? He just is like there in the background.
Yeah, he's just hanging out.
He's just hanging out. And then they send him off to Corellia to go. Yeah, go take care of.
But I mean, it makes sense. Like, these are like the hardcore Imperial loyalists who are like trying to bring the Empire back.
Yeah.
And so like it makes sense that an Inquisitor would be with them. If there's any Inquisitors alive, they would also be an Imperial loyalist. So
totally,
it makes sense. But I'd be interested. I want them to address it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they did.
We all agree it's not Ezra, though, right?
No, it's definitely not Ezra. That'd be insane.
Because the whole point is they're trying to go out to Thrawn, and where Thrawn is, Ezra is, and it's so hard to get over there. It wouldn't be like, oh, well, why wouldn't they just ask this guy the whole time? Like, hey, how do we get to Thrawn?
I did think it was pretty sick when his like lightsaber flies back to him, and Ahsoka just was like a casual side step, and it like barely misses her.
That's a badass moment right there.
She's just like,
that's a Filoni flex right there.
That's a Filoni flex.
As Frank would call it, a Filoni flex.
That was cool.
So yeah, I loved everything that happened on Corellia, especially Chopper. He got his glory.
That's cool.
Dude, how cool is that when he flips the disc and it lands, and then he does it like right away.
It does this one.
What do you think of Chopper there, Brando? Since you're not a real Rebels dude.
Yeah, no, I thought he was great. I've already seen like so many TikToks like making jokes about how he's like a war criminal and an anarchist. And it's
dude,
just,
he's
like,
bad.
So
he's killed
funny.
lots of people, dude.
And tens of thousands.
And like people were talking about how like in the live action version you could actually like understand what he's saying a lot better.
You can a lot more
in Rebels.
I didn't notice what.
Yeah, so you could actually like there's like subtitles and stuff you could find online, but like when you're reading the subtitles and you're listening to it, you're like, oh crap, that's exactly what he's saying. Like it's
really, I gotta see.
It's pretty fun.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. I think Brandon sent in the chat, Kev.
Yeah. Because Hera's like, oh yeah, if we do that, there's like a bunch of like, there's like a city below us, and what is he? I forget what he said.
He goes, "Is that bad?"
Oh yeah, is that a bad thing?
He's like, it's gonna fall on the city. He's like, "Is that bad?" And it's like,
yes, that's bad.
Yeah, that's bad. He's
right,
and then he's like talking about like Hera.
I gotta see this. Hold on.
Yeah, and he's like, Hera, have you been going through my stuff? And she's like, no, I'm going through your stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, look underneath the extra battery or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah,
is that
like,
bad?
You know.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. I noticed too that you could understand Chopper a lot more clear in live action than you could ever in Rebels, because I always wondered because they actually did write out the lines for Filoni to record for all the Rebels episodes, so I think they're out there somewhere, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, all that was really fun. Great sequence there with Chop and Hera. And then we get to the Eye of Sion with Morgan Elsbeth and installing that hyperdrive because they need superstar destroyer like hyperdrives to get to this other galaxy, which I thought was really cool. And basically, this is where Balin's like, not many Jedi left. It's gonna be a shame to put her down. That. And I'm like, damn, dude. And I feel like Balin, the way Ray Stevenson's portraying this character, I feel like Balin's going to do a sacrifice. Basically, I feel like right now he feels like, yeah, if we do this, we get all this power. But man, the Empire does not share. They do not share. And once Thrawn's back and he's in full control, I think Balin's gonna be like, okay, this is not gonna work out the way I thought it would work out. And then I think
gonna be like, first of all, what do you think the relationship is between him and Shin? Some people have said maybe it's his daughters, or it's a youngling that he saved, or if it's just some kid he found off the street. But I think his care for her, and again, I keep mentioning it, but on Jedi Way, we talked about, Laura had mentioned how, she's so overwhelmed with everything she sees, right? Even though she has quite the skills herself, everything she's dealing with, she's like, wow, or what are we going to do? What's that mean for us? And Balin is very much that father figure. And I think Balin is going to be very protective over her. And I think that Thrawn is so methodical and is not going to give really two shits about these two once he gets back into command, that I think that could create a little... I mean, you already see it. If Balin is like, hey, it would be a shame to kill another Jedi. I don't think Balin necessarily... I think if Balin could bring Ahsoka along with him, he would. You know what I mean? I think
you're probably right.
All of their kind.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see that dynamic when Thrawn comes back. Because I also think once Thrawn is back in the fold, I think this show is going to get kicked up another 10 notches. Because I feel like it's already doing incredible things in these first 2 episodes. But once you bring in the big bad of Thrawn, then I think it's like, oh shit, now things are going to be happening here. So I'm really looking forward to Thrawn's entrance into this series. Do you think it'll be next episode? Do you think he'll show up in the next episode?
I don't know. Maybe not.
I mean, that means if it's
what
not
happens once he's
3,
found? I mean,
how many episodes are there?
You said 8. You don't think that Ezra's going to be there until the very end of the episode, right? You think he's going to pull he's going to get found?
I don't think he's going to be reunited or rescued by Sabine, Ahsoka, Hera until the Filoni movie. Well, I think you'll
so why
see
wouldn't
him.
You see, yeah.
Well, I mean, we already know we're going to see Thrawn. We saw him in the trailer. We saw him on the deck of the Eye of Sion. We've already seen that clip in the trailer.
Well, here's something to get you excited about. Most of the things we saw in the trailer were from the first 2 episodes.
Yes.
We got 6 more episodes. We know they're gonna fight at Star Wars Stonehenge. They're gonna fight there.
Right. Yeah.
But we don't know that much else. So
we really don't.
Who knows where this story goes, to be honest.
There was one shot in I think it was a TV spot, or maybe the trailer, where Ahsoka's wearing a blue jumpsuit type of thing. Not what she's wearing now. So that's the only thing we haven't seen. There might be 1 or 2 more shots from those TV spots or trailer. Anyways, any final thoughts on these episodes, guys?
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on Balin. I think it's really interesting. He seems to be a pretty powerful Jedi. I know the Inquisitors weren't always the best Jedi. They were just the ones willing to turn bad. And then
right.
We saw when we did our Ahsoka Essential episodes, we saw Maul kill 2 of them in a blink of an eye. And Ahsoka has gone toe to toe with Maul and beaten him. So Ahsoka is not easy to beat. So I think I don't know what Balin's thinking, if he's gonna easily beat her or not. Bro, you can easily beat the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. Get real. She hit him in the face with a lightsaber.
Right.
And the only other guy to do that was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he just kept whooping that guy's ass. So that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully that's coming in the next episode. And if we're talking predictions, I do think we'll see Sabine use the Force in the very last episode. Maybe maybe her lightsaber will be across the room and she'll need it.
Oh shit!
And
yeah.
it'll fly into her hand.
Like Rey, kind of like a Rey thing, like a Rey.
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda.
But no misdirect. She really is trying to get it, and then it does happen.
I do want to say real quick. Also, Balin says something about Ahsoka in terms of the Force, that she's elusive. She's elusive with the Force. And I thought that's a really interesting way to describe Ahsoka. But he says her determination is vivid. Like he can
Great
sense her. He can sense her determination, but the way she is within the Force, it's elusive. And I thought, oh, that's a really, really interesting way to describe Ahsoka's presence within the Force.
Look,
So I thought that was
is
great.
the apprentice of Anakin. I love that line too, where Morgan is like, "Are you feeling sentimental?" Because he's like, "It would be a shame for another Jedi to die," and he's like, "Are you feeling sentimental?" And he's like, he's just merely stating the truth. Like,
Yeah.
there's something regal and very respectful of Balin, and I can't wait to find out what his story is. I feel like they gave a little bit of backstory. What, he was a Jedi that was like kind of left behind on Order 66.
He just disappeared after Order 66.
Yeah, so he
That's all
probably
we
had to
got,
survive
so.
on his own. So it's like he's probably like, I think he wants to give everything to Shin that the Jedi did not give for him, which is protection and power. And he feels like going through this winning team, he's kind of putting it. He's putting all of his chips in with Thrawn and Morgan.
Possibly,
And,
yeah.
You know, I wonder. I think that there can be some, not necessarily redeeming, but just a switch of sides or some sort of, you know, it's just, again, if they do that again, they did that with Reva. Like, you start to run the risk of like, well, everybody bad starts turning good and stuff like that. So maybe he's bad to the very end, but I think there's more than meets the eye with Shin. I just think that Shin is not this evil, like overly evil. She doesn't want to be evil. She's not a mustache twirling evil, you know, Sith apprentice. Like, I think she's in over her head. I think Balin is protecting her, and I don't think she's not the one that's like bloodthirsty. She's just doing what's asked of her, right?
That's true.
And that's why it's so interesting when she's like in that Stonehenge, and she's like, well, what's that mean for us though? Like, she's so like surrounded by all these people now. A Night Sister, and can we just talk about how we got to see a live action Night Sister? Like,
yeah,
pretty sick,
pretty sweet. It's pretty cool. All right, these end credits though, not a whole lot to talk about, just other than saying like pretty cool end credits.
Yeah.
Oh my
different.
god! I'm true story. I stopped at the end credits. What happens?
No, I'm just saying like the design of the end credits.
Oh, I didn't want. Is it just like the world between worlds shit? Like
kind of like that type of feel. Yeah. It's just really cool. Kind of like Game of Thronesy type of feel to it, just going back and forth and stuff.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. They're really cool. They're really
Different
cool.
vibe for a Star Wars show.
Yeah, totally. And it's I really liked it a lot. And then enough can't be said about Kevin Kiner and the score for what he's doing in these first two episodes. I mean, I cannot wait to hear what he does for the rest of the series, especially if like Anakin comes in here and it's just all the cues he's going to use. And I mean, this guy is on top of his game, and I'm so happy he's doing live action, because it's only a matter of time before he does the movies. Honestly, it's got to be.
For me, it was like listening to like John Williams do the sequel trilogy, where it's like all new stuff, but it still sounds like Star Wars. Like everything in this show sounded new and familiar at the same time for me.
Hera's theme, they played Hera's theme from Rebels, which I thought was cool.
They use
you got to use the greatest hits too, of course.
They use Sabine's.
Yeah, he's not shying away from using the greatest hits either, which is important.
Yes, and he uses Sabine's theme a lot. He peppers that in wherever he could. I felt in these first two episodes, because it's a great theme. You know, Trial of the Darksaber theme. He peppered that in. It's in the end credits too. It's the end credits.
And you know, when Kevin Kiner is involved, like he's all about introducing the new and then making sure to have the leitmotifs of the other stuff, which is unlike the composer on Kenobi, which was like out of this ego that the director and her had, where they were like, no, we're gonna introduce the Vader theme at the very end when he finally becomes it.
Right.
Vader's theme played during Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, so it was a stupid thing. Whereas this one, it's like he respects. You can still have your new stuff, which is so fantastic, but you're not forgetting where the old stuff is, and it's a good interwoven of both. And I'm looking forward to seeing the rest. And also, Steph Green directed the third one, so I'm excited to see how that. I think I liked 2 better than 1. I think the pacing for me just felt a little more lively. I was more excited about the second episode than the first, and I'm not saying that Dave Filoni did a good job. I know they're all hand in hand here. They're teaming up. So, but I'm excited to see the next episode with Steph Green. And like I said, we are really going into unseen territory. They did a good job of most of the trailers are of the first 2 episodes, which leaves me really excited. And I'm glad
even the marketing too.
They don't do coming up next week. I used to love that when they would do that after the end of 24. You'd find out what's next week, or Prison Break. They don't do that in Disney Plus, and it took some getting used to, but I like it now. Like, let me go in blind, dude. I don't want to see anything. You know.
Yeah. I would say go back and watch that first episode, Kev. I think knowing what to expect with that pace, I think you'll find it more palatable. But I think your point still stands. I did like the pacing a little bit more in the second episode. All right, before we close it out here, we got a couple questions in the Discord.
And I will say one thing: it was cool seeing Home One. Home One.
Oh
was
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
We should talk about that. They were in the room in Return of the Jedi where that I'm with you too, and Luke and Han.
That's
and all
right.
that.
I didn't
The
even
same exact
click
room.
for
So
me.
next time you watch it, fans, keep your eye on it. That's home room, that's Home One, and that is the room where they had the big
the home room of Home
Endor.
One. Yeah. That was very cool. I didn't even connect that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, going to our Discord.
And knowing is half the battle.
Going into our Discord, we got a couple questions.
Hurry up, because I want to find out if I won that Ahsoka toy.
Yeah. Erdon 2.5 says, "Do you think there is any significance to the character Merrick?" We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I don't think so. I just think, he's just another guy that.
Kylo Ren.
They're hiding.
I will say,
though.
Actually, the HK droids sounded a little Kylo Ren-y with like the helmet voice. That sounded a little bit.
It's not an HK droid if it doesn't sound like Christopher Tabori from KOTOR.
Sorry, I'm not a. Okay, but yeah, I don't think there's any great significance to Merrick.
Or maybe he'll be the first Knight of Ren.
Oh, maybe. He's a big dude. I will tell you that Merrick is like a big dude. He's a big dude. He's tall. Anyways, Ehite Nama.
That rules me out. Hold on, I'm going to be over here for this just to piss you off. So
go ahead. I don't care. Brandon, you're supposed to say I care, but you didn't.
I care.
Where's all your voices, Brandon? I haven't been back for 6 weeks. I have not heard Jar Jar once, dude.
Misa thinking. Balance go. Bombat Jedi.
Ehite Nama says, now that we have a little more context, what's everyone's initial theories on what Ahsoka was doing during the Galactic Civil War?
Kicking her feet up, hanging out, doing Jedi.
Niamos, guy. She was at Niamos, dude.
She's on Niamos? Yeah.
She's like, listen.
Relaxing in Niamos.
Listen, she knew that she was going to kick her feet up, do nothing. Luke was going to take care of the whole thing. And then at the end of the war, Luke was going to pass the baton. And then Luke was going to go on vacation for a while Ahsoka took care of business.
Has there been any explanation or anything?
Nothing. There's nothing out there that I know of.
They have, like, the war in the north and like Lord of the Rings, we like never see it, but those dwarves and people of Dale are like dying every single day fighting a bunch of orcs from Gundabad, but we never see it. Maybe Ahsoka was like fighting some other battle.
Erebor getting their ass kicked.
What if Ahsoka was just trapped on Malachor for 4 years, during the whole war, and just like
she couldn't call
guys,
an Uber.
I was like, guys, sorry, I was on this planet.
I wonder if that's an interesting. What do you fans think? I'm curious. Like, interesting.
I don't know.
She was fighting the war in the Outer Rim. She was on. Damn it! Why am I already forgetting the name of these planets from Andor?
What they need to do is do a special edition, and then of Rogue One. So they'll be like Commander General Syndulla, please report. And also, right. Captain Kano, please report to the bathroom.
Commander, yeah.
She's Commander, yeah. She's fighting on whatever the planet Andor's from. I'm too tired for this.
Ferrix. Oh, you mean his original
I've got COVID
planet?
brain. Yeah, his home planet. His home or whatever.
Actually.
I don't know. The one with the bricks.
Yeah, Ferrix.
Ferrix, guy.
Yeah,
she's on Ferrix.
The most haunted planet in
Are we approaching our year anniversary of this show? It's
close.
August, or are we beyond it? We're beyond
September.
What are we doing? Are we doing an 8-hour extravaganza? What are we doing?
Probably
sticks for everybody.
Meat sticks. Yeah.
It'd be cool to all be in the same roof. I don't know how I would get that done, but
we'll figure it out one day. We'll get there one day. All right, that's gonna do it for the Discord Q&A. If anyone else, has any answers for the Ahsoka one or theories rather, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you come up with because I really got nothing. But anyways, it's time to get on to our giveaway winner.
But before that, because everybody wants to hear it, I got to get my plug in because now you're going to want to listen to who won the action figure tomorrow, which is today. So by now, if you've heard the end of this, it's mathematically impossible that it hasn't been up yet. Go to my KOTOR channel just go to www.revantrilogy.com. It'll lead you to my KOTOR channel, or if you've already subscribed, we are releasing a brand new clip from our KOTOR Convergence movie, where we have 2 Revans collide, 2 sagas collide, and we decided to show a very interesting clip about, instead of like an action clip or anything, it's just basically what would happen when you meet the one person that made all the wrong decisions that you made right, and vice versa. What if you are meeting the person that did everything right and it is good? And we have this great scene that we're revealing for people. It's going to release tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I showed Frank the clip earlier today.
I saw it.
So it's
special.
Have you seen my movie? You've seen my movie, but yeah, it's we're excited for the fans to see it. So I would say look.
I'm excited after seeing this clip. After seeing the clip, I'm excited for the whole thing to come out and give it a watch.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I am.
And I do appreciate, just before we get the answer, because I think after we reveal the winner, we're going to be signing off here. I've been gone for 6 weeks. Had a little bit of a medical scare and my cancer comeback, but thankfully it was just that, a scare. But it's good that I have doctors that are overly cautious and making sure that I'm okay. It's not easy on the psyche or in the brain, and for 6 weeks I've basically been MIA from even seeing my friends and stuff like that. So it's been really good just to get back here and talk shop with you guys, and Brandon powering through it even on COVID, man. I appreciate that. It's good to have us back. We miss you, Sean. Hopefully he'll come back for our year anniversary.
I think he'll be back sooner than later. But anyway, that's for another time. The giveaway.
I happily accept.
Damn it, Brandon. You snuck through.
Now that you're done with this thing, I think having emails have way more entries was horrible. I could have won it then. I could have given you a fake email. Maybe I did. What's the name of the email that won?
Hey, look. Here's Drum roll. The winner is Loidus Maximus. Congratulations, you have won yourself an Ahsoka
That's
Black
me,
Series.
dude.
That's you the entire time. Oh
yes, dude. Loidus Maximus.
Maximus.
Let's hope he lives somewhere on the West Coast so shipping doesn't cost as much.
He's across the pond. He's across the pond. So, Loidus, you're going to have to send us your details. Send us an email. Honestly, if it was never going to be, if Loidus did not win this, I would be stunned, because for the past month and a half, he's been been so great in the comments and interacting, and right now, he totally deserves it. He's been great.
Can I message him right now, or am I spoiling it? Yeah, I would be spoiling it, right?
You would be spoiling yeah. So congratulations, Loidus, and thank you so much for joining us every week and interacting. It's been a pleasure. And your email was great. I really loved reading it last week, and I know you guys...
Is that the one you sent us? Is that the one you sent us?
Yes.
I will say, man, I was going through a rough... Still, been a big exhale of now I'm finally better. And he sent that... For some reason, Frank sent it at just the right time. And so reading that really meant a lot to me, too. So... And I'm sure Brandon feels the same way. And if he doesn't, he's just a heartless asshole. But
I skimmed it. I like what I read.
I skimmed it. No, but we're glad you won, man. We'll send it to you no matter if you're in Antarctica or across the pond. And that at least knows that we didn't rig this shit. Because if we were rigging it, you know who wins? Some dude in Pasadena. You know?
Right. I would have walked it across the street if that was the case.
Exactly. Oh, look who won. It's a guy in San Diego. John Wilkes.
All right. Well, we made it. We made it to the. What are you doing there?
I don't know.
Well, we made it to the end of this episode, and we want to thank you for joining us on our discussions for these first 2 parts of Ahsoka. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss next week's discussion as well on part 3 of Ahsoka. Hit that like button. Leave a comment down below telling us how much you love that Kevin's back and you can't wait for his KOTOR series. And then send your well wishes to Brandon. He's getting over COVID.
Feel better, Brandon.
Yeah, so again, follow us on all the socials, Twitter or X, whatever it's called, Instagram, TikTok, over there, podcast feed as well, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, would really help us out a lot. But until next time.
Is there a cold open ending or no?
There's
nothing. So this just ends like this. We got nothing.
Yeah, just don't worry about it.
Was this going to be in it at least?
Maybe. I don't know.
We should have this at least. Come on.
Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.